Hey.
Gentlemen.
I feel like I need to lock my chair.
Lock it from what, rotating?
Just lock it in case, because
coming back?
I'll mess something up. I'll be back here. How's your mother and them doing today? Did you just take my picture?
I don't know. Who's feeding back? Somebody's feeding back.
Yay.
Hey, Brett.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing? Chris,
Good.
how are you doing?
Fantastic.
Ready
to cry.
We have made it to week 7. Episode 7, sorry. It's like week 13. Out of 13 weeks, we've managed to get 7 episodes.
I like it.
Has it been that long? 7. That means we've been doing this podcast at least 2 months.
10 weeks?
Yeah. I think we've skipped 2 weeks. 2 or 3 weeks, maybe. Yeah. Wow. So anyway, episode 7.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
We went really light.
You're part of this deal.
We went really light last time. My hair's all jacked up, isn't it?
I mean, I feel like you're supposed to have a hat on.
I am. Leaman told me I had to have a hat on.
Why?
You tweet your
He
kids.
said I look better with a hat.
I don't have any hats.
And I got a pink shirt on, so
Killing
there's
the game
that.
today.
Yeah. I'm just a thing.
There
we go. I'll mess my hair up.
Save.
What are you wearing? You got a Save Hargus shirt
I
on?
do.
Okay.
I changed
I didn't know if you were
shirts.
getting undressed or what's going on here. So last week we talked about football. First of all, welcome back to the ManCast.
I'm happy. Excited to be here.
I was wondering.
I was waiting on Brett to clap.
Nobody's. Yeah. You're supposed to do it at the
I
end.
took a week off and I forgot about that.
Excuse me.
So we talked about football last week, and might I add, Chris's perfect prediction of the game. You predicted 31-41, Bama pulling ahead.
I did.
You predicted it close until about 30 points, and then Bama pulling away, and that's exactly what happened. It was 28-28, all right?
Yeah, I believe that was the score.
And they were back and forth. Well, I mean, I think LSU actually was down a little bit, and then they brought it back up to 28.
Mhm.
And
But
then
it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was like I think they came out of the second half, and the two quarterback stats were almost identical. Like yards thrown,
Yep.
possessions, touchdowns, like everything was almost identical. It was crazy. And then Bama pulled away. And
well, I just knew with two mobile quarterbacks, it was going to be a deal where, I mean, we've always had problems with that. So
yeah.
I figured
Well-
he was going to run for his life, or I think he actually got some concussion protocol at the end of the game.
Yeah,
So-
and I'm a Bama fan, true and true, but that should have been targeting.
Nope.
No? Why?
Dallas Turner.
He didn't lower the head. He didn't. I mean, that was a beautiful hit.
I mean,
right where he's supposed to.
I guess,
Didn't
yeah,
go head to
because
head.
I think the thing was the crown of the helmet, right?
Yeah, and he hit him with the face mask. The way I see it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just they're
I
trying
didn't
to
even see the
sissify
play.
football. So like, you got to be able to hit.
I
Sure.
agree.
I mean, I think the thing for me was more of like, and after watching it back, like I was like, well, did he not? It seemed like he drove him into the ground, but then the more I watched it, I was like, well, maybe he just like he was falling, and it's hard to change directions when you're falling.
Yeah, I mean, he may have like put a little extra into it.
Sure,
but,
that's
you know,
football,
that's
right?
football.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we're not playing soccer.
yeah,
I mean, that guy's been running around the field. I mean, if you can lay a hit on him,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And 15's been trying to lay a hit on him all
yeah.
night.
I don't
so.
think it was dirty at all.
No.
I mean, it's just
No
the
ill
part of the
intent.
game.
Chris, you're feeding back something furious.
Well, I'm sorry, man. This is your equipment. We use it every
Do you have a
single week,
pacemaker in?
so. No.
You got some medical
I
device?
took it out.
Seriously, every time you talk, it's like, you hear it?
Is it because I got this cord hooked over here? You
I
think?
don't know,
got some
man.
metal?
So I
Try
wanted
not tear
to.
anything up.
I guess last week was not a very deep topic. I don't know why I struggle with the word topic. It was not a very deep topic. So this week I was thinking, and I was like, man, what would be a good, like, I like it when we just have good discussion and when we all kind of have our own input that we can bring to something. I don't really like having a discussion where it's like one person has a bunch of input and the other people are just kind of listening. Do you hear that?
I did not
God,
move
it bothers
at all.
me. Anyway,
Not move.
and so I thought, well, let's do something that's been kind of something that's heavy on me because I know that it's going to be heavy on you guys too. And I don't know any insight like into this. Like this is not a topic. You guys can testify to that. This is not something we've talked about before.
No.
Right? I have no clue about yours or yours. Maybe a little bit of yours, but I don't really think so. Most of what I know about your testimony or your past has been you, not your family or anything like that. So anyway, tonight's discussion
I don't
is
talk about it on purpose, Leaman.
Sure. Okay, I'm sorry. I told these
Jeez.
guys like 2 hours ago, 3
Yeah.
hours ago.
Yeah.
I was like, "Hey, tonight's discussion, the topic of episode 7 is," and I forget how I worded it exactly, but it was like, "How has the discipline you received when you were younger affected you as an adult, or affected the way you grew up, or your I
Or
guess."
parent now.
Yeah, maybe the way you're a parent now. Yeah, anything. Really, I guess a lot of it was more focused on like how you were disciplined and kind of what impact that had
Yeah,
on you.
or
There you
just
go.
what it affects you in your life now.
Sure, yeah.
Hmm.
So
I'm with you. I'm not starting this one.
you're not starting? I was just about to ask who wants to go first.
Come on, Chris.
Who's got the least trauma?
Well, I mean,
Oh, he's going first.
I mean, I can start if you want me to.
Come on with it.
Listen, you led beautifully last time.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can't hear myself, but you
Well,
know,
that's your own
it's
fault.
one of those deals where, I just remember, not wanting to disappoint my parents growing up. Yeah, and that's
That's
probably
good.
why.
Dang!
I can hear
Look,
it.
quit.
Hey,
You're holding the mic. Like,
Hello-
roll that
hello.
mic. Roll it this way.
this way. I thought
There
you
you
told
go.
me not to talk in the bottom of it. See, there's that feedback.
Oh goodness.
We got to work on that. So, anyway, I always remember I grew up at my grandparents' house in Anniston, and we spent a lot of time there. And it was always, we're playing outside, doing all the things outside. There was never anything going on inside, but there was always this huge big switch over the front of the refrigerator.
Like a whooping switch.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and I'm assuming that's kind of what we're talking about here. That kind of helped mold me to
Yeah.
say like, hey,
Did it always hang up
Yeah,
there? Or
it-
did it get used?
no, it got used.
Okay.
Yeah.
'cause
It
we
just
had-
got put back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a new one because we had to go pick it, and you didn't come back with one that was, inadequate,
Yeah.
or it was, hey, it was a certain facial expression.
You
my
had to
dad-
pick your own.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a certain facial expression my dad made, when you knew he was a little irritated, or, there may be a belt or something. I mean, I
Mhm.
wasn't abused as a kid, but you always kind of, had some act right about you, So
Yeah.
it was one of those things where you were I was always afraid to mess up because I didn't want to, get the consequences.
You knew what was coming.
Yeah.
Were you more afraid of the whooping or your dad's disapproval?
Yeah, I would say that Dad's disapproval. Because after
Sweet.
a bunch of striped legs, it didn't. It's only so hard they're gonna hit you.
So would he whoop your legs?
Yeah.
That what? Why
wear
is that
you
a
out.
thing, man?
Like the back of the.
Yeah.
I never got the butt. It was always the thigh.
Well,
Yeah.
because that's where that tender meat is
Man.
back there. So
They call them back straps.
I'm hoping George will get us a back straps this year, so we'll have some good deer meat to eat. So anyway,
So that's it.
yeah, that's kind of
Your discipline was a spanking, basically.
yeah. It was always in the back of my mind that I knew that if I didn't, you're always gonna mess up as a kid, and you can see how far you can push your parents. But me not being a parent, and I'm not gonna discipline y'all's kids, but
I mean, you're welcome to.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been
Takes a
told that
village.
before. So, I don't know.
Did your mom and dad discipline, or just your dad?
Well, Mom wasn't around a whole lot, my parents got divorced when I was, I think, 10 years old. So I don't remember them being married. So it was one of those things where my mom was always working, and you came home and it was your responsibility to eat.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, she
Make
made
your own.
something the night before, put it in the, the
Mhm.
oven, and, just go about it, and you take care of your little brother. you
Now
know.
remind me, when did she get sick, or when was?
She passed away 8.5 years ago.
So you were an adult. Okay, so all growing up, she
Yeah.
was healthy and,
Yeah.
or at least you know.
somewhat. I mean,
I
from
gotcha.
what we knew. So
Yeah, yeah.
one of those things. So
So go ahead.
So how would you discipline now? If from the way you were disciplined as a child, would you discipline that way now?
I think, getting older, you kind of develop some sort of self-control when it comes to disciplining, other people's kids and stuff like that. I wouldn't necessarily, you don't want to make a kid bleed or do any kind of abuse or anything like that. But, I feel like the kids know, or your kids know, if with you and with Leaman, there's a certain way you look at them, or a certain
Oh, yeah.
tone in your voice that they know hey
Mhm.
man, I'm
serious now.
yeah. So
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know how being put in that situation. I mean, I'm not gonna like throw your kids out in the front yard and
I'm just
DDT.
talking
So-
about when you have kids, or if
Oh
you had
well,
kids.
if I'm ever blessed with kids, I feel like I could would use the same kind of mentality.
Yeah.
I mean,
So that kind of goes to my question is, like the mental aspect of it. What did that do to you? Like not like hurt you or anything, but knowing discipline and understanding discipline and receiving discipline as a child, what did that do to you as an adult when it comes to the thought of discipline? Not necessarily with your kids, but
Mhm.
just in general, like how you understand discipline.
I think it's just respect.
Okay.
That's what I would bring from upbringing or
I'm about to
anything like
fix your
that.
mic.
Is it me?
Yeah, it's gotta be.
So
when you were when your dad was, so I see discipline in several different ways too. Like, were you made to, like you said, fix your own plate, your own food? Turn that thing off. The TV timeout. Let's take a break for the. It's still going.
Is this? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Like, you have a pretty good
No.
discipline of showing up on time, early, waking up early.
just
Was that
dealing-
instilled at an early age, or is that something you learned later? Is that your dad set that discipline?
Yeah, we were always on time because I feel like, to me, if you're excuse me, if you're not on time, you're
Late.
late, but you're telling somebody, hey, my time's more important than yours.
Yeah, you're not important.
And I fought that in my last relationship. I'm not going to bring out any names, but it was
That was a between you two. That was a
yeah,
struggle.
Like, and my parents and brother would, hey, just get here when you can,
Mm-hmm.
because I was always there 20, 25 minutes early, and you show up 45 minutes late. I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, this ain't
It's kind of
gonna work.
disrespectful
Yeah.
of others' time.
Absolutely. So,
we won't hold it against you, Brett.
What?
hey, he had to go get some groceries.
At least I text.
He did. You let us know, and that's the important. That's the thing that salvages that, right? Like
Yeah.
just any sort of ability to be like, hey, I'm not like
And-
this is not. I'm not saying you're not important. I'm just letting you know, hey, something came up.
Yeah, and I hate being late. Like,
Yeah.
it's something that's in me.
I think that's awesome. I think that's one of the things that I probably have similar to you is like the respect that comes from it, like understanding, like not just getting in trouble or being afraid of getting in trouble, but just understanding like that there's somebody bigger than you, higher than you,
Mm-hmm.
that has earned the ability to be in that leadership role above you.
Yeah.
And there's a respect that comes with that, right?
Sure.
And I think most kids don't respect what their parents have walked through to be their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so I totally agree with you on that. So that was good. I like that.
Well, being our age, you like, you look, excuse me, I look back now and I'm like, this is what my parents are going through at my age, and they were trying to raise kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I respect you men because I see what y'all are going through, same things my parents went through. Because when you're a child, you don't know bills exist.
Oh, no,
You
yeah.
have no clue.
This
So
world's made of money.
now when I step back and I'm like, so this is why.
Mm-hmm.
But God, I'm not going to put that out there, but God wasn't the center of my parents' life, so that helps
Yeah,
too.
well,
So
So
but it is now. My dad and stepmom, they both go to church, and then my parents down in Fairhope, they both attend church. So it's good stuff. So
everybody turns around
Mm-hmm.
or has the opportunity to at
Yep,
least.
that's right.
So Brett, you wanna wrap it? You want me to go next?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I feel like Brett's holding something.
there's supposed to be some fireworks.
He's like,
Yeah.
I literally died
I'm
twice.
feeling a little IBS coming in.
hey,
I need to-
So my upbringing and like how I was disciplined was very if I had to sum it up, it's funny because I didn't really think about this. I know that I've got stuff,
mhm.
but I hadn't, like when I said this is what we're going to talk about, I didn't go like, okay, what am I going to bring up,
Mhm.
I would say that my discipline and my childhood was loosely structured. Yeah, there was a lot of structure in some aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
Other aspects, there was no structure.
Right.
And sometimes it felt like the structure was very momentarily decided
When it was
when it became a
necessary,
problem.
when
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was, was convenient for him.
Well, I don't know the convenient. It was more of like when he felt like he needed to remind me something.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like almost like he gave me freedoms until I butchered them or abused them,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was like, okay, I'm going to remind you how structured we can be.
Gotcha.
So I don't think. I think discipline growing up. I've been spanked a few times, not very many. When I did get spanked, it was never with a switch. It was a belt. It was my dad's belt, and he usually took it off.
Good old leather belt.
You know, pants falling down while he's whooping my butt. And I remember one specific time, and this is not to knock my dad at all. I think discipline is good, and I think it's needed.
In a healthy way.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad would always tell me when he was spanking me that and it was very difficult for me to take at that time, but he was like, I'm doing this because I love you.
Man, that's that saying, you know.
It's so bad.
I'm only doing
Sure
this
about
because I
that?
love you, you know.
Yeah,
And at the
but-
time, you're like, man, that's
Whatever,
garbage.
man.
Yeah,
But
but it's true. It's true.
His discipline was very firm, and it was unwavering.
Hmm.
My dad did not, in discipline, he did not have compassion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He was not taking it easy on
He's
me
not going to
because
feel
he
sorry
saw me.
for you
Exactly.
at the last second and be like, oh,
Yeah,
those
let me
puppy dog
let me
eyes aren't going to get. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm only going to spank you 8 times
Uh-huh.
instead of 10. No, that wasn't happening. I remember one specific time my dad, he would bend me over a bed, right?
Mhm.
And he would stand behind me and he'd spank me. And he wasn't aggressive. I mean, you know, dad strength is a real thing. He
Sure.
wasn't hurting. He wasn't hitting me hard, you
Right.
know. But in my mind, I was dying.
Sure.
And I remember crying and just crying on the bed. And he said, my dad is not a yeller. He's not a loud person. He's not aggressive. He's not. He's confident, but he's not like an anger person.
Yeah.
And my dad would spank me straight faced, and he would tell me what was going on and what I was doing while I was being spanked. And I remember crying, and he said, Leaman, you better stop crying, or I'm going to give you a reason to cry.
I'll give you something to cry about.
And I'm like, you're literally spanking me right now. You're going to give me a reason to cry? Like, in my mind, I'm like, what? What kind of madness, insanity is
You
this?
need to man up.
You're going to give me a reason to cry. So anyway, I remember that. But that was, you know, if I got spanked, it was, I never got reaction spanked.
Like an emotional.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was never like, go get a switch. You know, it wasn't, it was like,
That can be bad.
So
too,
he was
though.
able to process and then
Yes.
come in.
yes, it was,
Yeah.
he would tell me to go upstairs
Hmm.
and he'd be up there in a few minutes, you know.
That's a tough
And
one.
usually what was happening is he was talking to my stepmom, trying to figure out what happened, and, you know,
Right.
and sometimes I would get spanked, sometimes I wouldn't. But it was definitely, my dad was, for the most part, very cool, calm, and collected, and he was doing something out of a need to do it,
Mhm.
not out of a reaction to something. I think that was a good thing
That's-
for me.
That's a good takeaway from that.
It is, in hindsight, right? Obviously,
right.
as a kid, I probably didn't feel that way, but thinking back on it, it was something that led me to feel more okay with discipline
Right.
and understanding of, like, this is a lesson. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And I'll say my stepmom, she also would spank me, but it was different. I don't know if she was afraid to, like, fully whip me, but she had this spoon,
Mhm.
and I think you may have heard this story.
Yeah, I've heard this one.
She had a spoon, and it's a left-handed spoon. Something about it's different. Something about it being left-handed. And she, so is the sadistic the right word?
Like,
She used that spoon on me and other spoons on my brothers and sister.
so you had your own.
Because I was left-handed. My brother and sister are right-handed.
Right.
And so when she would whip me, she would make me hold my palm out, and she would grab my fingers, and she would hit me on the palm with this wooden spoon. And I was quick. I'd suck that hand back, and she'd pop, 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 you know, on my way back. And then she'd make me bring it back. And looking back on it, it's hilarious. She gave me that spoon as a wedding gift.
Now that's sadistic. I think that's what
I mean,
that's
as an adult, it was a joke. I laughed about it. It doesn't bother me at all. We
Right.
have it upstairs in our pot. We use it to cook and stuff.
right.
And, like, looking at the spoon, I laugh. But, you know, that spoon, I hated that spoon.
Right.
That
Yeah.
hurt my palm so bad,
Oh, I
man.
bet.
Just wore it out. But And as I got older, some of our discipline was more difficult. I didn't get spanked when I was older. A lot of talking, a lot of conversation. My dad was, again, the cool, calm, collected one. My stepmom would, I got taller than her, obviously. And so when she would discipline me, it was very mental, right? Her discipline was just as much mental as it was physical. She wanted me to understand that I was not in charge. This was not my house. I was going to do what she wanted me to do, and she never had bad intentions for me, right? It wasn't a power thing. It was just a respect thing.
Yeah.
She needed me to respect her.
Right.
So when I got taller than her, she would make me get down on my knees and stand in front of her so that she could look down at me
Like so you would submit kind of.
Yeah, a very submissive.
Yeah.
She put me in a very submissive place when I received discipline. And it worked. No, it didn't work. I understand it.
Right.
As an adult. As a kid, it did not work. I hated her. Couldn't stand her. It was the worst thing ever.
I feel like she was belittling you.
I felt like I was
Kinda,
I was being inhumanely treated, which is horrible to think. But and I wasn't. I mean, she disciplined me, and then she'd go cook dinner for all of us, and help us with homework, and the whole thing. But anyway, as how that led into my adult life, I think the only thing that was missing from my discipline was the love aspect. And not that they didn't love me, but that during discipline, it was understood the love side of it.
That I love you no matter what.
The lesson, I want to help you overcome this issue that you have. I want to help you understand why you did this wrong and what, it was very much discipline. It was, to me, it didn't come across at that time as like I felt like they hated me. Right? At the end of being disciplined, I felt like they hated me. I felt like I did everything wrong. I felt like,
was there a lot of, like, I know you said early on there wasn't a lot of discipline, like spankings. Was there a lot of,
there was more hand spankings than there was maybe 2 or 3 butt spankings, like leg spanking, whatever.
More this kind of discipline.
Just if I got in trouble, I just come on,
pop,
pop, pop, 5, 6, 7, I will say that my stepmom was she would explain what was going on. This was, again, none of it was very reactional. None of it was emotional discipline, but it was I definitely didn't feel like, I think, let's say this, the thing I do different, I've spanked my kids before. I don't do it very often. I maybe have done it once with each of them, maybe. And it was, years ago. My kids, I'm blessed with very good kids, I think. And but I will say that when they get in trouble, and they get in real trouble, I always make sure to go back in there when everything's calmed down and have a discussion with them. And that's the thing that I think I was lacking in my discipline. I was always left to figure out why I was disciplined, or why it was so bad, or why I felt, so wrong.
And at your age, you're like, they hate me.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah,
I wasn't capable of comprehending that, at 10, 11, 12 years old.
Sure.
And so I always try to make sure to go back to my kids and talk to them and sit them down and ask. That's the big thing. I ask a lot of questions. What do you think you did wrong there?
Right.
How do you think that made so-and-so feel?
Right. How can you react differently next?
Tell me what you could have done different. Like, I want them to, I want 2 things. I want them to know that I care about them, and I want me to know that they understand what they did wrong, and that their mind is starting to think different about how to do it in the future.
Right.
So that's a big thing for me of kind of my discipline, and how I try to let it be a reminder in the back of my head to not to do it different, but to just remember to follow all the way through with it.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah.
I was going to look this up real quick.
What you got? You going to look up, is it in, like, you got Wikipedia of your discipline? I'm going to look this up. I don't want to misquote it.
Got old files in here about my discipline. I was just going to say it's biblical to discipline.
You sure?
It's, I was trying to find the exact but he says carry a rod and use it.
Yeah.
Right, to discipline. I discipline you because I love you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the same thing we do as parents. We
Yeah.
discipline for love. If we're not disciplining our kids, feel like we don't love them, right?
Yeah.
You can discipline them
we're-
in the right way.
Yeah, I think a lot of parents think that they think that disciplining is not loving them.
Right.
Like they want to baby their kids.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it leads
I think
down a
that's why
whole
my
different
dad would
path.
tell me, I'm doing this because I love you.
Yeah.
My
yeah.
dad was, my
Right.
dad, he probably read the Bible 100 times,
Right.
front to back. Like
Mhm.
that's what when he was home from
so
work,
he knows it.
he was sitting in the living
Yeah.
room reading the Bible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
But anyway, sorry.
No, that's good. That's
It's definitely your turn.
so.
Hold on, before we get started.
Start the camera.
Yeah. All right, sorry about
Good.
that. The stupid video camera wants to cut out. Yeah, go ahead. I'd love to hear it.
So I can think of a couple instances of discipline. My dad always told me, you need a spanking once a week, no matter what.
Really?
Yeah, he's like, you need to be reminded, and you need to have that in the back of your head. I was never a bad kid, right? But my dad he was raised rough. He was raised in a South Alabama, little Bruton, Alabama, little town. And his dad was very abusive. His dad was, alcoholic, grew up in that time. My dad was older than most.
He had you at an older age?
He did in his 40s. I think he was 44 when he had me.
Oh, okay, wow.
So he was older. It was, you talk about fear and being scared of someone.
Mhm.
That's who I was. That was his discipline. Like, that's what he wanted out of you, to react out of fear. He didn't want you to, if you looked at the trash can and you didn't take out the trash, he was gonna wear you out, and you were gonna be so scared not to do it next time, right? You're gonna remember.
Yeah.
So, I remember Christmas one time. I was probably, I don't know, man. My brother's probably 16, so I was 7 years younger. I remember, they live envelopes out, have cash in them. I remember opening up the envelope of my brother's for some reason. It was a late night. Just kind of snuck in there. I was going to open up gifts and then close them back up and act like nothing happened. But I remember tearing that envelope, and I tore a $100 bill, like the corner of it, like all the way down. And I threw it in like his spit cup. He always had a red man spit cup. So I threw that thing in the side, and then I got a new envelope and put it in. I'm like, oh, I'm good, The next morning, they realized it was torn, and they found it. And boy, it ruined Christmas for me for sure. He was very abusive, very, very physical. Like, he would hit wherever, whenever, and very the language. Like, he would beat you down, not
Like
only
verbally.
physically but verbally.
Mm.
Yeah. So it was a mental game as much as it was a physical. So I remember that like real intense. And now that I think about it, a lot of these things were on Christmas. But I remember
Very specific.
my brother he had bought this big gift for a girlfriend, and it was a big box, right? And you get these big boxes, and you start getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Oh,
get
yeah,
the boxes going. And so about halfway through, I'm like, "There's no more boxes. It's a ring," and like just kind of shouted out. I'm a little, but he has this belt buckle that's about this big, and I remember him slinging that thing off and hitting me upside the head with that belt buckle. And you want to talk about being like angry and being scared at the same time? That's the kind of discipline I got.
Yeah.
So
Very fear driven.
very fear driven. So growing up, playing ball, very, very abusive in the language. And I think I was telling Rick Dykes this other day, we were I can laugh about it now. I can kind of talk about it, but riding homes from football games at 4, 5, 6 years old. My dad drove just a little red Chevette, a little bitty car, something you could reach back and get to someone in the back. I would wear my shoulder pads home because he would sit back there and just like pop me because he would remember something in the game and get mad, right? So he's always like, we were laughing the other day, like, run on your toes, and then you get upset and just start wailing on you, you know, and you're like, man, like, is it that important, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
Just
So-
a game, Dad.
yeah. So I mean, there's instances of him coming on the baseball field, cussing me out in front of all these people,
Middle of the game.
middle of the game, not even the coach, and he'd come out there and do that, right? So being embarrassed and being, you know, so you start reacting, you start acting out, you know, you start getting so angry.
You kind of play the part.
Yeah, you like he left off the mound, I threw it over the backstop, like so mad. I'm like, all right, this is it. Like I don't know how to control anything anymore, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, my dad would, we would go to a place called Sportplex.
Were you lashing out because you didn't know what to do, or were you lashing out because you're like, it can't get any worse?
I think I was lashing out because I was just so angry and I didn't have anywhere to put it.
Yeah. And
I can't fight back with him,
Sure.
you know. So, and I, you know, I hate to say it, but I was like, "Where's my mom? You know, like
Mhm.
where is she in all this?" And
Probably just as afraid as you were.
I think so when I look back at it. You know, my dad I think he thought he was doing the right thing, but he reacted emotionally.
Sure.
Sometimes he wouldn't react emotionally. I remember him, he would do things like, "Hey, go sit upstairs or go play, and I'm gonna wear you out at 7:00." And I'm like, "How am I supposed to go outside and play now?" You know?
Like you got a doomsday clock counting down.
Yeah. But my dad he never told me he loved me. I don't remember that. But even my friends were scared of him. Never would react to any of my friends that way, but they could see the fear in me, right? When I'd go to the huddle, the football games, I'd just cry. You know, I'm like scared to death.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it brought something out on me in the baseball field, in the football
Brought that
field,
dog out, didn't it?
where I would hurt people
Mhm.
or I would react out in ways, you know, that
was your release.
that was my release, right? So I was never like awesome. Like I had decent talent, but it was that mindset of I'm gonna hurt you before he hurts me.
That's
You
right.
know what I mean? I can remember him. I have an old buddy that we were probably 8, and we're at a party, football party, and there's 2 little boys picking on my buddy. My dad goes, "Go whoop him. Go fight them. That's not right." So in his mind, he's like, "I'm doing the right thing. I'm taking up for somebody." So multiple instances in my life, I've had to go fight people because he's like, "Go do it,"
Mm-hmm.
or he'd send some kids to come fight me. So I had to learn.
Now, would you get in, like, did you ever resist that?
You couldn't.
I mean, like, would you get in trouble if you did?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There was no thought of resisting.
Yeah. You were
Yeah.
trained at that point.
Yeah,
This is like you ever seen the movie Accountant?
I have.
Like
Yeah.
that when they were kids were growing up? It's
Mhm.
reminding me of that. Like,
yeah.
he was creating a soldier.
Almost, yeah.
Um,
Like, don't be fearful of anything,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time,
He was using fear to teach you how to not be fearful of anything.
yeah. So, you know, there's multiple instances like that where I'd be playing basketball with grown men at like 12 years old, and he'd be walking around the track, and kids are making fun of me. He's like, "Well, go down there and tell him. Go down there and, you know, get him riled up." And they would come fight me on the middle of the gym with all these grown men around. I'm like, I look back at it now, I'm like, what kind of psychopath does that?
Mm.
You know? But that led to all the things we talked about, you know, the drinking at 13
Sure,
years
yeah.
old,
Mhm.
you
You were
know,
looking
just
for
that
an
path.
outlet, just some sort of escape.
Yeah. So now,
Yeah. Well, let me say this. That's not who you are right now.
No,
Absolutely
so-
not.
I promised myself
Yeah.
that I would never do that to my kids. That would not be me.
Mhm.
Now, there's times where that emotional reaction where I want to spank right now, and I've done that before.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, it tears me apart.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, dude, you've seen this. You see what this does to people.
Is it fear of you, like, being afraid that you're turning into that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I never want to react emotionally to the kids because I mean, I'm 6'3", 250 pounds. Like,
Sure.
like
You're
if
all
I'm
right.
reacting
I mean,
emotionally,
he ain't that big. No, he is.
if I'm reacting emotionally, like I could hurt one of my
Oh,
kids.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, so to keep that in check is important to
Mhm.
me, just from a mental aspect
yourself,
for
yeah.
myself, and I don't want my kids to be scared of me.
Yeah.
You know.
So I read something a while back that said that if you really want to inspire change, there's two ways to do it. One is fear-driven, and one is love-driven.
Yes.
And they say the fear-driven one, all it does is teach you to not. It teaches you to avoid the result of your action, not to change your action. So fear.
Yeah.
Right, you didn't do good because you wanted to do good. You did good because you were afraid of the outcome if you didn't do good.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the moment there was another outcome and you didn't have to do good anymore, you switched to that, right? And that could have been drinking.
Right.
Right now
Absolutely.
it's okay, I don't have to deal with it. I can still act however I want and I don't have to deal with it, right? Whereas and that to me, like, it sparked something when I heard that. I was like, man, that's true, because if you lead with fear, all you're doing is teaching them to be afraid of the reaction.
Yeah, sure.
Like, you're not inspiring any real
There's no
change
growth.
of heart or
There's-
growth.
there's-
Yeah.
There's no learning from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's-
I think fear is healthy.
Yes.
I think
mean,
fear, the respect side of
it's the
fear is
respect.
definitely healthy.
Fear the Lord. You know,
Yeah.
we respect that. You know.
Mhm. And I was thinking when you said your dad never told you, like I've said that before about my dad, but
yeah.
my dad only ever told me he loved me when he was disciplining me.
Right.
Like, I think that,
Right.
like, thinking back, I was like, I think that's the only time really. And you know what I did? I've started this the other day. I've always told myself, I'm not going to be that way with my kids.
Right.
I'm going to tell them I love them. I'm going to show them I love them. You know what I started doing the other day? I said, I'm not going to be that way with my dad.
That's good.
I send my dad a text every morning now, tell him I love him.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
And it was hard. Like,
yeah.
you know,
I
the
bet.
first response, I said, I sent him a text the first time. I said, love you, Dad. Have a great day.
Yeah.
And he sent me back, you too. And I was like, oh, I know that was awkward.
Yeah. I make it a point to. I feel like the Lord tells us to love everyone, right? So I
Sure.
tell everyone I love them pretty
Yeah.
much, and I mean it.
Yeah. That's the big thing, is not letting it become just a word.
Yeah,
Just a
and
phrase
I was
used.
afraid that would be a thing,
Mhm.
but I have the same thing with people. You know, you know those people. You're like, I love you, and they're like, thank you.
Yeah.
You know,
You're welcome.
you know.
Like, this is awkward.
But with your kids, you know, you just as I was just like walking up the stairs earlier, Bryant's like, "Hey, Dad, love you," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Dude, love you too, man."
That's
You
right.
know, it's like he knows, he gets
That's all
it,
right,
right?
yeah.
He's not.
And he
It's not
knows
a
you
f-
like that too.
Yeah, it's
He
not
knows
a
that you need that.
fear of anything. It's just a pure love out of his his
Yeah.
heart. It's just
And you
a-
think of you as a kid, like, you would have never
no.
went, hey, Dad, love you.
Mm-mm.
Like, because you just, like,
And
that
that's
wasn't
all you,
the.
that's all you wanted as a kid
Sure.
was just your dad to be around.
Mm-hmm. Be that friend.
And as a kid, I'm like, dude, just like quit coming to games. You know, you always, you talk about my dad didn't come to my games. I'm like, dude, you want to trade?
Yeah.
You know? But when I look back at it, I've always thought about don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. But he taught me a lot too.
Sure.
You know, he taught me a lot of things. He was bad but good. You know, it was difficult, but it was good
Yeah.
at the same time. I try to look at the good side of it now, and not just dwell on the poor pitiful me. You know, I had a tough childhood. I need to drink. I need to do this.
Yeah.
Like, is sometimes you gotta change yourself.
Yeah. Well, and the beauty
to
of
break
that,
those chains for not the next generation.
Mm-hmm. The beauty of that is it's not unfixable, right?
Mhm.
Clearly, you've completely changed, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing it cost you is time,
Mm-hmm.
right? It cost you time, and that's, you
I
can't.
tell people all the time, it only took me 25 years to get over being angry at God and my dad.
Yeah.
You know, it was a long, I won't say wasted time, but it was a long time to be angry.
Sure.
You know, but you learned a lot of stuff in that. That was
Yeah.
God's always God's timing, right? He's just waiting on us.
Yeah.
He knows
And
when
I
that
think
time.
not to sound cliche, I think the hardest lessons are the best ones.
Yeah.
I think that's something that.
I think with all of our testimonies, when you
Oh
get
yeah.
to the fire, that's when you start learning.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
That's when you got to just basically put up or shut up.
Yeah, but unfortunately, when that's a person,
Shut up or put up. Yeah.
when that's a person,
Yeah.
you usually ruin a relationship. When it gets the hardest, right? Mine was a little bit of a person, but it was also mostly a situation that was very difficult, right?
Right.
It was a specific situation that I had to overcome. It was because of a person,
Mm-hmm.
well, which was me, but at the time I thought it was them.
Right.
But it was a situation whereas yours, like, your difficult time was literally a person,
Sure.
right? It was when that person was around and when there was the fear and stuff. And so I can only imagine that makes it just strains that relationship.
Yeah.
Because you have that where you just automatically have a negative thought, right? Like you just said, you have to teach yourself to
You have
remember
to
the good
retrain
things.
your mind. You have to and it's all the Lord. It's all Jesus that comes in and changes that heart change.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back today and I wonder, it took me a long time to understand, but I look back and when he passed away when I was 13 and I was angry with him before, but then I was upset that he's gone.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Were you upset because you feel like you always wanted? This is me speculating.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you could fix it, and then you ran out of time?
I feel like there wasn't enough time to. Looking back on it, would things have changed as I gotten older?
Exactly, and you missed out on that because he wasn't there.
Yeah. Could I send my dad a text?
Yeah.
Today and say I love you,
Mm-hmm.
or would I not talk to him? What was that relationship look like?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like today I would be the guy that would to try to fix that situation.
Oh, sure you would.
Because it would just eat at me if I didn't.
Yep.
But
be your life's goal.
but yeah, you get angry.
No, I'm saying as a 13-year-old kid though.
Yeah, you don't understand. What I didn't understand was, Lord, why would you take my father?
Mm-hmm.
Even though he wasn't awesome to me,
still your dad.
Why would you take him? And then so you're trying to figure out as a 13-year-old kid. You're angry with the Lord. You're angry with your father. You're like, I think I loved him, but I was still mad at him. But it's just a lot to deal with for a 13-year-old in the mindset. And
sure.
When you've got, and I look back on it today, I had men step in my life to be that discipline. But you didn't want that discipline as a kid.
Sure.
You're like, man, come on.
Yeah.
You're like, I had a dad.
You're not my dad.
Right? I had a dad,
Yeah.
But
you think you just come in and replace my dad?
But I'm so thankful there's several men in my life that stepped in, and no matter the pushback I gave them.
Yeah, and I'm sure we heard your story. It wasn't easy.
Yeah, they were there for me.
Mm-hmm.
They would take me to places and be that good discipline, to be that good role model. And I think it helped change my heart, start shaping my heart for later. So
yeah, that's good.
I didn't want to do that. I hate talking about it.
Man, yeah.
For probably, it's been, I don't know, right as I got married, even a little bit into my marriage, I couldn't mention my father's name without just bawling,
losing it.
Yeah. But I feel like the Lord has given me that spirit, that spirit's louder than my soul now.
Yeah.
That soul can't take over. That Holy Spirit's inside of me now that helps me to he healed me.
Yeah.
It's
and
been
be able to walk
healing.
back through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's wow. I would have never. I mean, I knew you had a troubled upbringing with drugs and alcohol and things like that, but I didn't know that there was that. I guess we never talked about your dad. Obviously,
no, I don't. I talk about him to my kids.
Okay,
because I want them to know what I went through.
Okay,
I want them to know life's not easy.
Sure.
I talk about my past a lot to my kids. Like I'll tell them, this is how my dad handled this situation, and this is how I'm going to handle this situation. Not that they completely understand it, but
sure.
I want them to know that I don't want to sugarcoat everything.
You think I'm being mean? You ain't heard nothing yet.
Yeah. So that's.
I think that it's funny how the three of us completely have different examples of discipline in our life.
Right.
And yet all three of us kind of have I would say the same mentality towards discipline
Yeah.
and the same kind of probably process of discipline. I mean, I've seen you discipline your kids. You've
Yeah.
seen me discipline my kids.
Yeah. I think what you said earlier, like, really resonates with me is that taking that time to process before you go react to your
Sure.
kids doing something.
Yeah.
Because
It's important.
They're going to do something every day that's going to,
Yeah. Every minute.
you know.
They're probably up there doing something right now.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean,
Yeah.
you can't discipline out of anger.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to have that cool off time. So
Yeah. And it's tough because that's your reaction. That's your initial instinct, right?
Yeah.
Because the anger is what you're trying to. It's what causes you to want to discipline.
Yeah, and
Right.
I work on that daily. I
Yeah.
mean, just it's something that when you're that young and you, I mean, like, like I've hurt people on the ball field. Like, I've broke a kid's ribs, punctured his lungs on a baseball field. I hit a fly ball and I ran right over him through the
Mhm.
base. I've tackled a kid in a basketball game where coach is like, go foul, and I'm like, this is my time. Like, I
Yeah.
can just go take him out.
Level him.
So it's those, you always have that frustration and that rage as a kid, and it doesn't really leave. And if you don't stay in the if I don't stay in the Word every day, if I don't keep myself focused on the Lord and His beautiful just joy and peace, like, I can go berserk quick.
Yeah. Well,
So-
because it's there,
Mm-hmm.
man.
So y'all have to help me with that. Keep me in check.
Accountability, my
I'm
friend.
gonna try to keep your 6'3", 200 whatever pounds up.
It really never comes out.
I mean, we're all pretty good sized fellas. So
Yeah. we ain't light eating over
Yeah,
here.
that's right. I got my keto boys over there.
Yeah.
Getting
Well,
it down there.
taco
I'm trying.
salad to you.
Yeah. I started keto today. I'm already getting a headache. So
7 pounds in a week. Got to lose 7 pounds.
yeah, we'll see how that goes. Gentlemen, 47 minutes. We went a little over today, but
Yeah.
I think it was well worth it. I really love having these conversations with you
Yeah,
guys.
it's good.
I think
My palms
I
are
think
a
it's
little sweaty tonight, but it's good.
I think it's a little bit of therapy.
I was about
Mm.
I was about to say that. It's almost like therapy with your brothers, and it's a safe space, for me.
Yeah. Where
I-
you can
I think
talk.
It builds more of a trust, more of
Yeah,
a bond,
for
more of
sure.
you're like, man, didn't know this guy. I know this guy, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you already feel like I feel like we know each other.
Mhm.
So it's a comfortable environment,
Sure.
right, where you're able to talk about stuff. It's a place where you're not going to become judged
Sure.
by us, any of us. And sometimes as men, you just need to release. You just need to get it out. You know what I mean? You just need to say what's on your mind for a little bit.
It's okay to be vulnerable sometimes as
Yeah.
a man.
Well, I think there's always someone out there too that has been through something that we've been through, and if it could be, you could help someone that has been through any of your situation as
Or
a
is
kid.
currently going through it
That's
and
right.
doesn't know how to.
So if
yeah.
you can help, that's the goal now. I think.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Teach your kids and then help others.
Yeah. And you can see I can see the results of it.
Mm,
I can't tell you how many times somebody will come up to me and be like, "Man, your kids are so good."
that's awesome. Yeah.
And I'm like, it's gratifying to know, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
it's not for nothing. Sometimes when I'm disciplining, it's very difficult to not go easy on them or
Yeah,
to go or feel sorry for them.
Yep.
Or it's very easy to get emotional and overreact,
It is.
right? And so as a parent, as a good parent, I'll say this, as a parent that's striving to be a good parent, the constant battle for me is making sure that I'm raising good kids
Mm,
and that I'm trying to do it the best way that I can.
right.
And the most challenging part of that is discipline because there's no rules
There's not.
and there's
And
no
each child's different.
every child's
You can't.
every child's
You can't
different.
discipline
oh,
the same way
goodness.
with each child.
Oh man, and I tried early on
Yeah.
and I found out so quick that it doesn't work.
That's right.
And so, and it's on, and each child even as they mature and grow, like how they respond and react changes. So, it's very good to see. Like,
I don't know about you. Like, there's sometimes that you need to get onto them, and there's
Mhm.
sometimes you just need to like. Doesn't matter what the mess up is. There's sometimes they just need that hug.
yeah,
That they need that love. They don't
Mhm.
need. Why would you do that again? All that. The discipline part. They need. it's all right, man.
Yeah, and it's
know?
very fluid.
And you're like, you can see the gears running in them. And you're like, man, that's cool, kind of.
Yeah,
It's,
he loves me.
Yeah, yeah,
He's trying to help me.
that's right.
Yeah. So anyway, I think we'll wrap it up there. My dogs sound like they're about to attack something outside. I don't know what's going on with that.
Chris, any
Probably
final
one of
thoughts?
those wild deer you have running around.
but yeah, they're out there feeding. They feed they feed all night long. I get pictures all night. Gentlemen, episode 7. I think I'm going to call it discipline. Because it's way too long of a title to say how was your discipline affected you.
That's right.
So thank you guys out there in TV land, as we like to call it, for watching and listening. And episode 8's next week. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I'm sure I'll tell you guys an hour beforehand.
Last minute.
Yeah.
Thank y'all so much.
Clap us out.
Missed that last week.
Yeah, we did. We didn't know what to do. We were just like, I guess we'll just turn off the cameras.
Hey, before we go, love you guys.
Love you
Yeah,
guys.
love you, man. Hey, y'all have a good one. We'll see you.
Good night.